We've talked about a lot of great ideas today, but in order for any of them to be possible, we have to figure out how to fit them in the budget. Malia Wasson, president of U.S. Bank Oregon, is here to tell us how we can finance the Oregon Business Plan agenda. Please, again, welcome Malia.
Wow, you're still all here. It's amazing. I wanted to call a seventh inning stretch, but Wally told me I couldn't, so it's always fun to be the last speaker of the day, especially when everyone has said everything you're about to say, and finally that you're talking about a riveting topic like public finance. But I'm not going to let you off the hook. I'm going to go through this quickly and hopefully painlessly, excuse me, Freudian. Okay, so you've heard about the tough times, but thanks to prudent decisions on the fiscal front, Oregon is going into these tough times in better shape than most states. And specifically, you've heard about our budget gap. To keep perspective, you can see that the budget gap for Oregon is only 1% of the general fund, and obviously other states are higher. I've seen a graph that was actually showing California at 54% of their general fund. We also, thanks to the governor, who has called a one-time long-term budgeting process, are able to show you how our revenues and expenditures stack up here. So the dotted line there that's red obviously is expenditures exceeding the revenue. Now, you should also notice that despite the deficit that we'll be facing, we are also looking at expenditures falling below revenue here in the long term, so that's the good news. And the reason for that is the demographic breather, as it's been called, where our school-age population is going to be diminishing, which will relieve the system for expenses, and also the workforce will be growing. And of course, we are going into this downturn with reserves, and those reserves total in excess of $700 million. So that's the good news. So our key question, and one that should be contemplated today in your breakout sessions, is how do we leverage these advantages going into the downturn? How do we maintain momentum and come out stronger in the sense of having a competitive position, able to take advantage of growth when it comes again? So I'm here to talk to you today. I always have one big call to action every year, and that is we need to reform the kickers. I'm just a banker, but when we gave $1.1 billion back to taxpayers in December of 2007, the same month that our recession started, I don't get that. That's crazy, and we need to deal with that. We also after 30 years of kicker policy, we haven't exactly seen any other states getting on the bandwagon either. So despite our progress with reserve building, we know that the reserves are still inadequate, and we need to identify more sources of funds to go into those reserves. And then going forward, it is our view and recommendation that we divert all or most of the kickers, both personal and corporate, into the reserve funds. And you should know that the Revenue Restructure Task Force that is about to make its recommendations to the legislature in January is in line with that as well. So we need to do the right thing. In the last recession, we didn't. We made mistakes. We didn't take care of education, and we were known for it. So let's not make that happen. Let's keep the 40-40-20 vision going. We need to expand the quality of our education, the rigor of our K-12 system, and of course we need to grow our enrollments in higher ed. So going into the breakout sessions, we're going to be talking right now about how we're going to finance this. And for the education breakout, think about this. We need to maintain that momentum, the progress that we've made, and we need to formulate policy where we can make disciplined withdrawals from the reserve funds. We need linkages to the reserve funds for our education funding. And I think it's safe to say that we may need to access those reserve funds in the next biennium. I know the governor wasn't a big fan of that, but it's a little hard for me to believe, once again, as a banker, that we're going to think of, let's save those reserve funds for a worse recession. Do we really want to leave those funds on the sidelines as we go into probably the most severe economic downturn of the last 4 decades? Healthcare, the big challenge, you've heard about it today, and that is that there are rising costs. So if we are to achieve our access agenda, we're going to have to explore ways to reduce that cost structure, and that's what we need you to be thinking about in the breakout session today. In terms of economic innovation, good news there. You just heard that there's $20 million set aside, a $20 million package set aside in the governor's budget. Transportation, you will hear a proposal for new financing package to protect our existing infrastructure and make new investments. So I've been doing this. This is my 3rd summit. The first summit, I asked for a reserve fund on behalf of the Oregon Business Plan. And in 2007, the legislature passed our rainy day fund. Pretty good track record. Last year, I asked for long-term budgeting. The legislature is not able to see the effects of its work on a long-term basis, both from a revenue perspective and expense standpoint, and it's very important for good government, and we need to make that permanent. But the governor called for that on a one-time basis, and that got the ball rolling. And as I've mentioned before today, the Revenue Restructure Task Force will be recommending to make it permanent. So I think we're pretty safe on that one. And then kicker reform, that's the biggie. We need to build our reserves, they're insufficient, and we need to link those reserves to education. And we have recommended one possible way to come up with a disciplined way to make withdrawals, but we acknowledge that there are other ways, and you'll see the example we give in the policy playbook. But nevertheless, we need to address that. And as always, we need to make our reserves bigger and fill them faster. So please accept this call to action. We have a great track record. We have great momentum. Let's go out and do it. Thank you.